Okay, so I have to do this video again because I did a live stream about an hour ago, and I was talking about some issues that people have with drones, and I thought, well, the live stream was 18 minutes long, and apparently only about 2.5 minutes of it actually went out onto YouTube, because the internet down where I live is absolutely garbage. It's terrible. It's the internet on the moon is better than it is around here, and that's saying something. So anyway, what I was saying, I'll try and recap on what I was saying. There's different types of satellites. The more expensive satellites, GPS satellites, for the more expensive drones, the better quality ones are the GLONASS satellites. Apparently they have a more accurate positioning. So when people talk about drones taking off and landing back in the same position that they actually took off from, they're using the more precision, the more advanced satellites, because there's different GPS satellites. I think the older satellites are the standard GPS satellites, because they're by the names GPS. But there are other satellites that also do the GPS as well. And I think the GLONASS satellites are better, they're more accurate, because if you look at the more expensive drones, like the DJI, they tend to use the more precise satellite system. So what I was actually talking about, I'll take my glasses off because they irritate me after a while, because this flipping blepharitis, so I'm trying to get rid of this irritation. The rims of my glasses are so cold that they create these cold spots on my eyes, and yeah. Anyway, I'm sidetracking here. So I recently bought a cheap drone, which I actually sold at the second-hand shop, and I got most of my money back on that. The reason I sold it was because it didn't have GPS. It was the very first one I bought, and it's so easy to have a flyaway where the wind can carry it away, or you could lose it, and you've got no function for return to home. You've got no emergency button you can press and bring it back to where you started from. So that's great for kids for playing around in a field or something, but where I am, I don't really have any fields near me, and we're in a built-up area, and I don't like to have mishaps where you could actually end up flying into somebody's window, or you could easily the drone could get blown into somebody. So I actually bought the oh shit, I've forgotten now. Hang on a minute, let me just think. I think it was the I can't think of the name now. Anyway, the F3 drone. Anyway, it's the that was it, the 4DRC F3. I bought the 4DRC F3 drone, and it had GPS. But it didn't actually tell me how many satellites I had. It said if it had connections to the GPS satellites, it says if it had that connection, but it didn't tell me how many satellites. And that's a problem, because you need at least, with the GPS satellite system, you need at least 9 or more satellites, because they have a 15-degree in the angles where the satellites are positioned. You have a 15-degree angle up in the sky, and if you have buildings around you on one side, and you're only picking up satellites on one side, that's when your drone can do weird things like try to fly back to China, and you could lose it still, because it's got no it's not got triangulation. Triangulation is when you have 3 different points in the sky where it's locked on, and the reason you need triangulation is for it to coordinate on actually where it is in space, you know, where it is in the air. If you don't have a good GPS lock, if you only have 2 satellites, you don't get triangulation. So it could be between 2 points, but it could be anywhere in that direction. So if I do it in the vertical position, right, imagine we're looking straight down and you've got 2 satellites and you're not connected to the 3rd satellite down here, then you could be positioned correctly between these 2 satellites, but not in this direction. So you could end up flying off in this direction where you still got to lock it between these 2 satellites, but it can go way off course and smack into a wall or something. So you need, really, for safety reasons, you need at least 9 of the GPS satellites. It's called triangulation, and that's the only way you can get accurate positioning in the sky. And the GLONASS satellites, which you can look up on your UAV forecast app, which is free to anyone. You get the UAV forecast app on your phone, and that will tell you if it's safe to fly. As long as you have the minimum satellites for your particular drone. So if you're using the cheaper drones that use the GPS satellites but not the GLONASS satellites, you need at least 9 satellites or more if possible. The reason for having more satellites is because if one satellite's blocked by a building or a tree, then it will usually lock onto another satellite, so you have less chances of losing all satellites, if you know what I mean. So apparently the GLONASS satellites are more precise, because when you take off with a more expensive drone like the DJI brand, those particular drones, the quadcopters, or the more expensive model aircraft, they can use the more precise GPS system, which when you take off you will actually land exactly where you started from. But the older satellite system is less precise. It doesn't have a lot of decimal points after it or something, so you're not as precise when you take off and land. It gives you approximation, and you can get drifting and stuff like that with the older system. But the newer system is much more precise. So I don't claim to know everything there is to know about the satellite system, so you can correct me if I'm wrong by posting something in the description or in the comments section, whatever. But I do know from looking online, the people who have got the more expensive drones, quadcopters, have a much more precise positioning system, whereas the cheaper drones do not. They're a little bit more prone to mishaps and strange behaviour. And obviously you don't want to be flying if you've got a lot of cloud cover, heavy thick black clouds, because the weather conditions can also block the signal and cause strange behaviour. It's the same goes for any aircraft, really. It doesn't make any difference if you're flying model aircraft. Even professional pilots and professional airport, you know, real McCoy sort of thing, even they've got to observe weather conditions, whether or not it's the weather conditions are suitable for flying. Because if it's extreme, I mean obviously extreme wind and things like that, or hail, snowstorms and things like that, obviously even real aircraft have to get grounded at some point. So with a drone, you are much more prone to weather problems, you know, humidity, fog, things like that, which can interfere with the GPS signals. Because you got to remember, these little drones have got very small antennas on them. They haven't got a huge amount of error correction built into them like professional aircraft, which have radar. They've got all sorts of backup systems. They've got other means of navigating, which the drone doesn't have. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. So the reason I sold my 4DRC F3 drone, I put it in second-hand shop, is because it didn't give me enough information about how many satellites it was connected to. So it could say it was connected to GPS, but it might not be enough satellites. So there's nothing in the manual about how many satellites it would be the minimum requirement for it to say that it's safe to fly. So you could be flying thinking you're safe when you're not. Because I noticed on a couple of occasions my 4DRC F3 drone would shoot off back to China, or try to fly back to China, when it didn't have enough satellites. So by all accounts, that drone shouldn't have even been safe to take off. It should have warned you and said it's not safe to take off or something. It should have prevented you from taking off if there wasn't enough satellites. But they don't. The cheap ones don't do that. So I ended up getting the GD95 drone, which I've still got, and it's a really cute little drone. Hang on, I'll just pause a minute. I can't see the damn... Hang on a sec. I can't see the pause button. So I've got the GD95, which is this one. It's folded up. It's a really nice looking drone. I actually flew this in the backyard, but I didn't go to high altitude because the weather conditions weren't perfect. It's got adjustable camera on it, which you can adjust with the remote control, which is pretty cool. I don't know if I can show you that. I'll just unfold it a minute. Oh, I turned it on. I don't want to do that yet. Still folded up. Hang on. So this one, I'll see if I can show you. So if I turn it on, right, so you go for the usual procedure with that. You get the remote control, you turn the remote on, and you calibrate it, right? You do the then you do the vertical, and it's calibrated now. Now what I do like about this, if you look at the camera on it, the camera at the front, it's got an adjustable camera. So if I use the remote, are you watching? It actually moves. So you can angle the camera from the remote. So you can actually control the camera angle, but it doesn't have a gimbal, right? Obviously, I've got no satellites indoors. I can't get satellites indoors. Don't know if it'll focus on that. It says no satellites at the top in white. Yeah, it's a bit washed out. With the front camera, it's a bit washed out. Yeah, but it's a nice little drone. It flies really well. So as I said, this is a GD95. Don't know if it's safe for me to just... I could show you the propellers. I couldn't unlock it for a minute, show you the propellers. It'll turn off after a minute or two. So it works. It's nice. It's quiet. It works well. It's got obstacle avoidance, which you put in that compartment on top. You just take this lid off and you put the obstacle avoidance in. I like it, but the video quality is shite. Even though it's got this adjustable camera, it's great for taking photographs, but it's not very good for taking video because it's very, very jerky. So anyway, I wanted to show you it. I'll turn it off because turn that off again. It's good for flying, it's good for taking photos, but it's not great for doing videos. So as I was saying, this particular drone, the GD95, it only supports the GPS satellites. It doesn't support the GLONASS satellites, which is a bit of a shame. So I thought I'd mention that. The weather at the moment is absolutely atrocious, so there's no way I'm going to be flying it for some time. It's winter now, more or less, but I'm waiting for the there's some bargains on Banggood right now. They're actually selling the Seafly Faith Mini for a discount at the moment, which is and I didn't think I'd be able to buy that. I didn't think I'd be able to afford it, but when I saw that the discounted price and I worked it out, it works out that I could pay that off in 3 payments on the PayPal pay in 3 thing, and I could easily sort of pay that off in 3 months. So I decided I'd get that one as well. So that one's on its way, and it should arrive sometime in December, and I'll show you it when it arrives anyway. And then I might sell that one. I might sell the GD95 second hand. I don't know yet. We'll see, because I do like it. It's good. It's a nice little flyer because the obstacle avoidance is perfect if you want to fly in the town and you don't want to bump into somebody's car, or you don't want to bump into a building. It's perfect because of the obstacle avoidance, whereas the Seafly Faith Mini does not have the obstacle avoidance on it. So that would be great. If that's great for being out in the open and flying with extreme caution, but it's not something you want to fly around in the backyard, really, in a where there's lots of things around, because you could easily bump into something by accident. So this is good for this GD95. Is great for flying around with the obstacle avoidance. It's a little bit too sensitive though, because if you just got a clothesline, a post or a tree or something near you, it won't even take off. It won't let you take off. So it can be a bit of a problem. So anyway, as I say, we're almost at 18 minutes again, which is about how long my live stream was, and I was talking about stuff last time, and I was just saying, and the video didn't come out at all. The live stream just didn't work, so I had to do it all over again. Anyway, this time around it was probably a bit better. So as I say, if you do fly a drone, just make sure you check the UAV forecast app, because you can get it on the internet, and see if I can find it on my other phone. It's on here somewhere. So internet's probably crap. So yeah, you get this information. It gives you all the weather conditions, wind speed, how many satellites. So if you, as I was telling you earlier, so at the moment we've got visible satellites 8, which is not enough for the general GPS satellites. If you go into satellites locked, right, which is that one, and you've got an advanced drone, you can turn on the GLONASS satellites, which is the second one down. You just turn that on, and if you look now, it says we've got 14.3 satellites, right? So if you've got a more advanced drone, if you've got a more expensive drone, then you'll be able to get a good GPS with those. But if we turn the general GPS satellites off, now if you look, we've only got 6.6 GLONASS satellites, right? We've only got 6.6, which is still not really enough. You need at least 9 of those, probably, and you need 9 of the GPS sats. So if you turn the GPS sats back on, it says 14.3, it says we're in the green, but It depends if your drone is using both sets of satellites, or is it just using one set of satellites. And that's something, I suppose that depends on the drone that you're buying. You need to look in the description. If it's a more expensive drone, it should tell you which satellites it uses in the details about the drone. So you really want to be using the more advanced satellites. I think those are the GLONASS satellites. I'm not sure about the Galileo satellites. I'm not sure if they're GPS, but I assume they are. Let's turn that on a minute. The Galileo satellites, it gives us 20 total. So let's turn off the GLONASS and the GPS satellites. Now the Galileo satellites, we've only got 6.5. We've only got 6.5 of the Galileo satellites. So it depends what your drone uses. So if we turn all of them on, it says we've got 20.8 satellites, right? So you have to remember, your drone might not support all 3 satellite groups, right? I know this cheap one here, this GD95, only supports the GPS satellites. So as you can see there's not enough of them. There's only about 7.7. You need at least 9 of them for it to be stable. So it's worth knowing those things, because if you try to fly and you don't have enough satellites, then you're most likely going to crash. So just be aware of that. So I wanted to cover that so that you could go and do some research on satellites and what your drone supports, because you need to find that out. Anyway, that's it. Bye for now.